the day I healed the 10 lepers. They were 10 men crying out for healing. But only one came back to say thank you, and I showed them the power of a grateful heart. As we reflect on the story of the 10 lepers, we're left with a question that echoes through the ages. What are we grateful for? The 9 men who were healed were so focused on the gift that they forgot to thank the giver. But the one who came back found a deeper healing, a healing of the heart. What about you? Take a moment to think about a time when you received a blessing. Did you remember to say thank you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear how gratitude has transformed your own life. If this message resonated with you, please consider giving this video a like, subscribing to our channel for more stories of faith and transformation, and sharing it with someone who might need to hear this message today. Your support helps us spread these timeless truths. The air was heavy and thick, a humid curtain that clung to the skin. I was traveling toward Jerusalem, my path taking me along the border between Samaria and Galilee. It was a place of division, of old tensions and deep-seated animosities. Jews and Samaritans did not mix. They did not share water or break bread together. They saw each other not as brothers but as enemies. And in this ordinary, fractured world, there was a group of outcasts who had a deeper, more profound kind of separation. They were lepers. In that day, leprosy was more than a disease of the body. It was a sentence of social and spiritual death. Their skin was disfigured, their bodies wasting away, but the true torment was their isolation. They were forced to live apart from society, from their families, from every person they had ever known. A leper's cry was a constant mournful wail. "Unclean! Unclean!" It was a warning to anyone who might accidentally come too close. They lived in small, desperate colonies. Their only companions, the other outcasts who shared their fate. This was their ordinary life. A life without touch, without a future, and without hope. They were men without names, without homes, without a place in the world. They were simply a group of 10, bound together by the same affliction that had stripped them of everything they held dear. They had no possessions, no dreams, and no expectations beyond the slow, agonizing march toward the grave. The world had forgotten them. Their families mourned them as if they were already dead. And yet in their desperation, a flicker of hope, a whisper of a rumor had reached them. A man, a prophet, was coming through their land. A man who healed the sick, who cast out demons, who spoke of a kingdom where no one was an outcast. They had heard stories of his power, of the blind seeing and the lame walking, and a desperate, fragile hope took root in their hearts. They were 10 men, 10 desperate souls, and their ordinary life was a living death. They had nothing to lose and everything to gain. They had heard that I would pass their way, and in that small, impossible hope, they found the courage to cry out. Their faith was not a deep-seated conviction, but a final, desperate plea. They had nothing but a rumor and their last breath of hope. They were standing on the edge of the abyss, and they were about to take a leap of faith. The silence of the afternoon was shattered by a collective, heart-wrenching cry. "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." It was not just a request. It was a wail. A desperate, guttural cry that came from the depths of 10 broken souls. I heard them long before I saw them. I was traveling, but my ears were always open to the cry of a broken heart. They stood at a distance, as was required by the law, a small, ragged group of figures on the dusty road. Their cry was an acknowledgement of my authority, a desperate plea for a miracle. The people with me, my disciples, and the crowd that followed me, grew quiet. They looked from me to the lepers, their faces filled with a mixture of fear and pity. They knew the law. They knew the danger of coming too close. They would have expected me to either turn away or to make a grand public spectacle of healing them, but I did not. Instead, I simply looked at them. I did not move toward them. I did not touch them. My gaze was enough. It was a profound and silent moment of connection between the healer and the sick, a moment that transcended the barriers of law and tradition. I could have healed them with a single word. I could have made their skin clean and their bodies whole in an instant. I could have commanded the disease to leave them, but I did not. Instead, I spoke a simple command that would test their faith, a command that would show them that healing was not just a matter of my will, but a matter of their obedience. "Go," I said, my voice cutting through the silence. "Show yourselves to the priests." The command was a test. They had come to me for a physical miracle, but I was offering them a spiritual journey. In that day, the priest was the one who could declare a leper clean and reintegrate them into society. My command was an act of faith, They had to choose to believe in my word, to obey my command even though they were still sick. The crack had appeared. The world they knew, a world governed by cause and effect, was breaking apart, and they were being asked to walk into a new reality. For a moment they hesitated. They were still lepers. They were still sick. The priest would not declare them clean as they were. My command was a paradox. They had to act as if they were already healed, even though all evidence suggested otherwise. And in that moment of profound, painful uncertainty, they chose to believe. They turned and began to walk toward the temple, their faith a fragile thread that bound them together. They were still outcasts, still broken, but they were walking toward a new life. And as they walked, the miracle began. The journey to the temple was not a short one. It was a long, dusty road, a journey of hope and fear, of desperate prayers and fragile faith. With every step they took, they were making a choice. They could have turned back. They could have succumbed to the doubt that whispered in their ears. "You are still sick," the voice would have said. "The man is a fraud. The priest will turn you away and you will be a laughingstock." Their faith was being tested, stretched to its breaking point. They were walking on a promise and they had nothing to show for it. The breaking point was not a dramatic moment of despair, but a quiet, internal crisis. They had to choose to believe in a miracle that had not yet come to pass. They had to choose to trust in my word, even when their own bodies screamed otherwise. They were a group of 10, and their faith was a shared journey. They were a collective hope, a small army of believers marching toward a promise they could not yet see. Their faith was not a blind leap. It was a series of small, obedient steps. With every step, they were affirming their belief in my authority, in my power, and in my love for them. The priests, who were the arbiters of health and cleanliness, would have looked upon them with suspicion. They would have expected to see a miracle, a dramatic sign of God's power, but they were about to see something far more profound. They were about to witness a miracle that was not a single event, but a slow, gradual transformation. The lepers were not healed in an instant. They were healed on the journey. Their faith was the engine of their healing, and then it happened. The breaking point had been reached, and it was a moment of profound, overwhelming joy. The scales of their skin began to fall away. The lesions began to heal. The disfigured limbs began to return to normal. The 10 men who had been outcasts for so long were suddenly whole. They looked at each other, their faces a mixture of disbelief and wonder. They had been healed. They had been made clean. The miracle they had hoped for, the promise they had clung to, had finally come to pass. The 9 were overjoyed. They laughed and wept and embraced one another. They were a testimony to my power, a living testament to my grace. They had been healed and they were free. They were running toward the temple, running toward the priests, running toward a new life. But one of them, a Samaritan, stopped. He had reached the end of his journey and he had come to a different kind of breaking point. He had been healed, but he had a choice to make. He could continue on his way, or he could turn back. This was the profound shift. The 9 men, once bound by their shared affliction, now shared a collective destination, the temple. They were headed to receive the official declaration of their healing and their re-entry into society. Their focus was on the destination, on the reward, on the end of their suffering. Their hearts were filled with joy and excitement. They had been given a new life and they were eager to begin it. But the Samaritan, he was a man of a different mind. He was no longer a leper, but he was still a Samaritan, an outcast among the people I was traveling with. The deep-seated prejudice and animosity between our peoples was a wound that had not been healed. The others had simply continued their journey, their hearts focused on their own blessing. But this man, a stranger to the Jewish faith and to my people, made a choice that separated him from the rest. He turned back. He did not continue on to the priest. He did not join the other 9 in their joyous race toward freedom. He turned around and he came running toward me, his face a mixture of profound gratitude and overwhelming awe. His heart had undergone a transformation. His focus had shifted from his own healing to the healer. He was a man who had been given everything, and he understood that the gift was not the healing itself, but the giver. He fell to his knees at my feet, his face in the dust, and he gave thanks. It was not a grand public display of worship, but a simple, heartfelt act of gratitude. He was not a man of great theological understanding, but he understood the heart of the matter. He had been given a new life, and he knew that it was not a matter of luck or chance. It was a matter of grace. He had been given a gift, and he knew that the most important thing he could do was to thank the giver. I looked at him, and my heart was filled with a deep and profound joy. The 9 had been healed, but this one was different. He was a man who had received a physical healing, but he had also received a spiritual one. He was a man who had been given a new body, but he had also been given a new heart. His faith had not only made him whole, but it had also made him a worshiper. This was the shift. The others had received the gift. He had received the giver. The purpose of the miracle was not just to heal the sick, but to reveal the power of a grateful heart. I looked at the man still kneeling at my feet, and I asked a question that was meant for everyone to hear. Were not 10 made clean? Where are the other 9? The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. The other 9 were on their way to the temple, to the priests, to their new life. But they had forgotten the most important part of the journey. They had forgotten to say thank you. I did not condemn them. I simply pointed out the absence of gratitude. The other 9 had received a gift, but they had not received the blessing. They were physically whole, but they were spiritually blind. They had been given a second chance, but they had not understood the source of it. The Samaritan, a stranger and an outcast, had understood something that the 9 had not. He had understood that gratitude was not just an emotion, but an act of worship. I looked at the man and I spoke a word that was more powerful than any miracle. "Rise and go," I said. "Your faith has made you well." The word "well" I used was not a reference to his physical healing. It was a word that meant salvation. The 9 had been made clean, but this one had been saved. He had not just received a new body, he had received a new life. His gratitude had opened the door to a deeper, more profound blessing. He was a man who had lost everything, and then found a treasure that was more valuable than all the world's wealth. My purpose in this story was to show that the greatest miracle is not a physical healing, but a heart that is filled with gratitude. The 9 men had received a gift, but they had not received a relationship. They had been given a second chance, but they had not understood the giver. The Samaritan, in his simple act of worship, had revealed the true heart of the matter. He had shown that a grateful heart is a heart that is in right relationship with God. The story of the 10 lepers has echoed through the centuries, a powerful and timeless reminder of the importance of gratitude. I have seen countless lives transformed by this simple truth. I have seen people who have received great blessings but who have forgotten to thank me. Their lives are filled with things, but their hearts are empty. And I have seen people who have lost everything, but who are filled with a profound and overwhelming gratitude. Their lives are filled with peace, with joy, and with a sense of purpose. The other 9 lepers were healed, but their story ends there. The Samaritan's story is just beginning. He went on to become a witness, a testament to my power and my grace. His gratitude was a light in a dark world, a beacon of hope for all those who were still lost and searching. He was a living example of the truth that a grateful heart is a magnet for miracles. This story is a mirror for your own life. You have been given so much. The breath in your lungs, the food on your table, the people you love. Do you take these things for granted? Or do you see them as a gift from my hand? Your life is not a series of accidents. It is a tapestry, woven with threads of grace. And the greatest act of worship you can offer is a heart that is filled with gratitude. The 9 were made clean, but the one was made well. And in that one I showed them all the power of a grateful heart. My beloved children, I see you, just as those 10 lepers came to me seeking freedom from their affliction. Many of you are searching for freedom from your own burdens. You carry the weight of worry, illness, or loneliness, yearning for a moment of peace and relief. I am here for you, always ready to hear your pleas. Remember the 9 who walked away, their bodies made whole. They received their miracle and continued on their journey, so focused on the gift that they forgot to honor the giver. Do not let your blessings blind you to the source of all good things. True joy is found not in the gift, but in the heart that remembers to give thanks. But one, a stranger, turned back to me full of gratitude. He didn't just receive physical healing. He received a deeper spiritual wholeness. His act of returning was an act of faith, and because of it, his heart was restored. This is the path to true revival and spiritual growth. So I ask you today, what are you grateful for? Look around you and see the small miracles in your daily life. Let a spirit of thanksgiving fill your heart and transform your perspective. When you come to me with gratitude, you open the door for even greater blessings to flow. Come back to me, my child. Leave behind the life of forgetfulness and embrace a life of gratitude and vibrant faith. Let my love heal your heart and ignite a fire of revival within you. Your journey of faith is not just about receiving, but about returning to me with a thankful heart. As we reflect on the story of the 10 lepers, we're left with a question that echoes through the ages. What are we grateful for? The 9 men who were healed were so focused on the gift that they forgot to thank the giver. But the one who came back found a deeper healing, a healing of the heart. What about you? Take a moment to think about a time when you received a blessing. Did you remember to say thank you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear how gratitude has transformed your own life. If this message resonated with you, please consider giving this video a like, subscribing to our channel for more stories of faith and transformation, and sharing it with someone who might need to hear this message today. Your support helps us spread these timeless truths.